for another Elsie's Little Pickles, the pickle pod for the people, reminding everyone to please partake in the pickle protest against MAGA by placing a pickle on a MAGA supporter's porch, taking a picture of it, and sending it to us at elsieslittlepickles@gmail.com. Big week, big day, big deal. So what's we got a full pickle barrel, which is always awesome. We've got Colton, we got Kiefer, you got me.
Hello.
A lot of things going on. We'll get to the news in a moment, but you guys were just telling me that I missed out on something incredible, which was the town hall with Chuck Grassley.
Yeah, he got his ass handed to him.
Did he? All right.
Yeah.
Give me
By
some
a
of
bunch of seniors.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, see, again, this goes back to the way
Screaming about, what about the Supreme Court?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was
Because,
the one guy screaming about the Supreme Court. Another guy was like, so when are you going to bring back that Maryland man?
Yeah.
I think they don't realize that a lot of people are pretty pissed off about that because people are realizing, and it goes back to what you were saying before, they went after this thing and it didn't affect me. They went after that. It didn't affect me. It came after this. It did affect me and no one was there to help me. And that's being repeated a lot in the news and on podcasts. People are coming around to
I sent you Nazi Barbie's response.
Yes, which was absolutely ridiculous.
It's monstrous.
I can't believe that she got away with that.
She's trying to she is the mouthpiece, but they're trying to rewrite history.
Yeah.
Just for clarity, are we Nazi Barbie is the press?
Here.
Press
Abrego
secretary?
Garcia was also arrested with two other well-known members of the vicious MS-13 gang. And two separate judges found that Abrego Garcia was a member of MS-13, and that finding has never been disputed.
What are you asking for?
So basically,
Except that he was never a member of MS-13
Yeah,
and everyone, he was on the run from MS-13.
bullshit. I mean, that's the thing is like their lying it's amazing. And the way that they're twisting the 9-0 judgment against the Trump administration to bring this guy back.
That is bad, but also I don't know how early on you heard her talk, but she referenced what basically threatened the press corps right there.
Oh, you know what? Let me see if I can pull that back up here. Let's see.
Listen to, she addresses the press corps. I don't remember what she said, but there was a tinge
Today,
of-
we have officially learned Democrat officials still refuse to accept the will of the American people. Maryland Democrat Senator Chris Van Hollen rushed to Dulles Airport this morning to fly to El Salvador, potentially using taxpayer dollars, to demand the release of deported, illegal, alien MS-13 terrorists. The Democrats and the media in this room have continually and wrongly labeled Kilmar Abrego Garcia as a Maryland father. There is no Maryland father. Let me reiterate. Kilmar Abrego Garcia is an illegal alien, MS-13 gang member and foreign terrorist who was deported back to his home country. And when Kilmar Abrego Garcia was originally arrested, he was wearing a sweatshirt with rolls of money covering the ears, mouth, and eyes of presidents on various currency denominations. This is a known MS-13 gang symbol of hear no evil, speak no evil, see no evil. Abrego Garcia was also arrested with two other well-known members of the vicious MS-13 gang. And two separate judges found that Abrego Garcia was a member of MS-13, and that finding has never been disputed.
You do realize that
they're just making shit up. You know what I mean? Like they're not even. I don't even.
Well, as she said, there is no Maryland father.
Yeah, little known fact, Maryland, no fathers.
Well, I wonder
not one father in Maryland.
If it's deeper than that, what if she, in a Trumpism, is saying he's already on that pile?
I hadn't even thought about that. Now, for the listeners, can you explain the pile? Now, let me preface this by saying that you sent me this picture, and it is of the El Salvadorian prison. and
Yep.
there's this
Correct.
unusual pile,
Very red,
very, very
Yeah.
red.
oddly flesh colored.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
It
I mean,
is rumored to be a pile of former tenants.
Oh, I can one up you. You ready for this?
Yeah.
So
please.
regarding the El Salvadorian death camp, because let's be real, that's likely what it is,
most
especially when
likely.
you consider they only have room for 40,000 people. Within a year, I think, of it opening, there were 110,000 people, and the El Salvadorian government really likes saying no one leaves that place.
right.
Mhm.
So what's happening to them? So it's a fucking death camp, and we're sending American citizens to a death camp.
Well,
But I can one up you, just to get back to that. Google used to allow you to type in the address of that camp, and it would take you to it in Google Maps, Google Earth.
Correct.
It no longer does that. You have to type in the coordinates.
Yes.
So see, here's the thing that bothers me with all of this.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was about to.
Yeah,
It's a soft form of censorship.
And you're seeing more of that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
I don't think
I had a story about it, and the page says this story is no longer available.
right. That's exactly where I was going with this. Is people don't realize, like, I don't know if it's the Trump administration putting pressure on news media.
I'm sure they are.
I'm sure they are too, but whether or not the news media is actually reacting to that, or if that particular story was removed because they found some reason that maybe what was being reported wasn't accurate and they just pulled the whole story. I don't know. But what I do know is that you're seeing a lot of, so this is the brilliance of the Trump kind of plan, right? And it goes back to Steve Bannon, muzzle velocity, throw as much shit out there as you possibly can.
We'll sneak 97 if they catch 3.
Yeah. And also try to distract them with something that is maybe
over the top outrageous.
Yeah. And then you can, when they're looking to the left, you can go pivot right. And now you're getting all of your really nasty shit through.
Well, I mean, in boxing, we already know what this is. It's the jab or the feigned jab. So then you can come in with a hook to the rib.
Right. So I and this we'll get to this in a minute, but the idea, in my opinion, is, and you heard on the hot mic with Trump and the president of El Salvador,
Yeah,
Trump told them
homegrown.
Next is homegrown, right? So they definitely want to send American citizens to this El Salvador prison thing, right? And really, it's a death camp at the end of the day. But
can I just point something out too with this? This is not a unique strategy. As far as I remember, there were no death camps in Germany in 1940s. They were all in Poland. They were in Czechoslovakia at the time. They were in, Austria. They were not in Germany.
Well, yeah, because you don't want that shit in your backyard. It's to quote Carlin, it's NIMBY, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we need more prisons. Not in my backyard. Yes, we need more this. We need more that. Not in my backyard. We need more nuclear. Not in my backyard. So NIMBY is very
not
much
just that. It's also, well, basically, if the United States ships people and citizens to El Salvador, they are no longer under U.S. Constitution.
That's what they're trying to play here, right? So because the Supreme Court wasn't incredibly to the letter specific on what it was that they were ruling on, that opened up. I think they were too. But the interpretation that Trump is getting away with and the administration is getting away with.
He can come back if he wants to.
Yeah, but we're just going to send him back anyway, right?
He can come back if he wants to. We're not saying he can't come back to the U.S. if he wants to.
But the fact of the matter is they've also said it doesn't matter. He's an illegal immigrant, and we will deport him back to El Salvador.
There's an issue with that, and that is in the 14th Amendment. It doesn't specify U.S. citizens. It says any person.
Any person, exactly.
Now, when someone refers to someone as an illegal immigrant, that is not a crime. I don't know if you guys are aware of this.
No, I
not
didn't.
a crime. Yeah, it's a civil violation.
Well, yeah, no, because crossing a border is not illegal.
Correct.
Crossing a border is not illegal. Overstaying a visa is illegal, but not.
But it's still not a crime. It's a civil violation, not a criminal offense.
It's not a felony.
However, if the person is removed and then comes back, it is now criminal.
And that's what they're trying to do.
Yes.
That makes sense. But again, where are we going with this? You know what I mean? I think that's really what people are not paying attention to. Because it's very difficult. Every week is literally a shitstorm of fucking crazy, piled on top of nuts, piled on top of insane. Coming out of this administration.
We've marched headstrong into 1984. Like not to pull the obvious example,
not the year,
like
but the book.
The book, not the year.
Yeah. Like
it's very Orwellian.
To pull the standard, the stock. Oh, this is like 1984. No, it is.
Yeah, but I mean, people don't recognize this, but they're even trying to get. If I'm not mistaken, I believe they were trying to find out who the exchange students were in colleges so that they could monitor their social media, and if they said one thing that the administration didn't black bagged and out you go. This is very quickly becoming a reality. And that reality is, again, you guys know I fucking hate the Hitler comparison. But when
Hitler started with deporting the Jews.
Exactly. So it's starting the same way, it's ramping up the same way. And
have this, I was going to do a German accent, and it started to sound New York. Sorry, New York. But we got this nice resort down in Auschwitz.
Yeah, exactly. and that's the thing is, in watching this,
it's got a great concierge doctor named Megley.
He just wants to take your temperature.
He'll give you anything you need.
Yeah. Dr. Feelgood himself. So, but the thing of it is that a lot of news, or a lot of podcasts, I should say, are starting to talk about this. You're starting to see this more on the podcast, but even like the most liberal MSNBC is not hitting this as hard as they should be. Like,
no, because they're fucking pussies.
Well, they're
I know
afraid.
I'm going to derail this, but you said Dr. Feelgood. And I now have to ask you, have you seen the band Dr. Feelgood?
No.
They're, late 60s, early 70s, mid 70s. They're this like soul rock and roll from England.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were going Motley Crue.
Yeah,
honestly.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say, have you seen Vince Neil?
They're called Dr. Feelgood, and they were fan-fucking-tastic. Like, holy crap.
How long have they been around?
Well, the singer and the guitar player are dead.
Okay.
In fact, I do believe they both died of cancer.
Okay.
But they were incredible. The guitar player, most people would end up knowing him for playing the Executioner in Game of Thrones.
Oh, okay.
But he was a fantastic guitar player.
Okay.
That band fucking rips. Like, holy crap. Rock and roll with a stern, coked up fucking face staring at the crowd.
You gotta love it.
That is just on fucking point.
Well, it's gotta be hard to sing through Lockjaw.
Well, I'm sure, the singer sings, but he also plays a harmonica, so I bet that's when he stuck that harmonica into his mouth and
something to bite on.
Yeah. But YouTube them, they're just fan-fucking-tastic.
Well, I would say that that's a great lead-in now to Kiefer with the news.
Oh, I thought I was doing that already.
No, no. This has not been made official until I say Kiefer with the news.
We need some like typewriters.
You know what? I'm gonna get that.
Social Security lists thousands of living immigrants as dead to prompt them to get the fuck out.
That was something that was interesting. So I don't know if you saw that story, Colton, but essentially
half of that is not actually in the headline, but I was paraphrasing.
Well, what ends up happening is as soon as they are listed on Social Security's dead list, they can't get a bank account, they can't get a job, they can't do anything.
Well, yeah, because their immigration number is no longer valid because they're dead.
Nothing. Even if you were an American citizen. So, like, they could do that to all three of us. And now we literally have no ability to do anything, right? So, no jobs, no bank accounts, no loans, no mortgage, no credit cards, nothing.
It's like they want another Killdozer.
No Chatterbait, no Pornhub, verification.
No OnlyFans. Jesus Christ, what are we doing to ourselves? But that's the thing, and the problem with that is that there's no, at least from my understanding, there's no way to even fight that. So once you're there, and it's over for you. And that seems to me to be a way for them to using essentially a soft power to nudge your ass right out of the country. And I don't know how they're getting away with this shit.
In other news, we have U.S. troops are heading to Panama.
Yeah. Again,
they're already there.
They're already there. Yeah, they're already there. And it's totally a dick wave.
It's listing that they're there for military training, exercises, and
intimidation.
Other activities.
Yeah.
Gonna exercise these nuts.
I mean, we laugh, but I mean, I don't think people fully are grasping. These are all the small steps that lead you to the point where you go, how in the fuck did this happen?
What's worse is it's exponential. So first it's Mexicans are rapists. I'm sure some of them are nice people. Then it's, trying to
bad
put
hombres.
in a travel ban. Yeah, bad hombres. Then it's instituting a travel ban against countries you don't like. And then it becomes, okay, we're gonna deport any illegals.
And again, my absolute total distaste and hatred for the Hitler comparison is still within me, but I don't know who else you compare it. Well, I don't know who else you compare it to. Because
there is
these
no
are
one
the
else to compare it to.
These are the exact same things that Hitler did.
Yeah, and it ramps up. The steps only get bigger. Yeah. The steps only get bigger, and they only get wider as you progress through this.
Yeah. How tall is Trump? He's about yay tall. Yay tall.
But cool it over there, Elon.
But the sad part is,
I have 32 kids.
The sad part is, you probably do and just don't know it. The sad part is, through this whole thing,
I knock up women just sitting next to me.
Dude, I watched you walk through a mall quickly and 4 women fell over pregnant.
I even look at you.
They just look at you. Yeah. So again, this is like the ramping up of everything. And I don't know that people are paying close enough attention, and there was a great expression. I forget who said that, who said this, but they were talking about the tariffs and they go, well, there's a 90-day reprieve kind of on that. And then whoever it was that said it goes, that seems like a lot until you realize that Trump's only been in office like 84 days. And look at what has gone on.
Yeah.
So we're in this really weird...
More than double what we've already been through.
Right. All right, next story.
Well, I've got some bad news for Donald Trump.
Oh, good.
I'm the healthiest person in all of America.
I passed my cognitive tests.
They had me draw a clock. I drew the clock.
I made it 1 o'clock on the clock. Elon said it was 1:05. I said no.
No, it's 1:07.
It's 1:07.
Apparently, Augusta National has rescinded its invitation to the Donald.
Really?
Yeah.
So, he's not allowed to play there, or?
I guess that's open to interpretation, much like.
Yeah, it's all right. He's got
what he says.
He's buddy with the Saudis. He can go golf
anywhere,
at any of their places.
He can go golf at Live, where he hosts their tournaments.
And not to kick a dead horse, but the idea that he, rather than being there for the soldiers that were killed, came and doing what a president's supposed to do, which is be there to receive them. He was working on his own business deals with the Saudis and golf.
Yeah, well, I mean, that goes back to the Nero comparison of Rome was burning and Nero played his fiddle.
Yeah.
You ever see the movie Welcome to Mooseport?
No.
Well, I think I have, but remind me.
Everybody loves Raymond. I can't remember his name.
Ray Romano.
Yeah, Ray Romano is kind of like a handyman or something, and everybody loves him, and he decides reluctantly, all right, I'll run for mayor. And a former president moves in to the town and decides he's going to run for mayor. So the two of them are squaring off, and there's a scene, though. Point of this is that they're golfing for the right to date a woman, and the president's ex-wife shows up and, wants to make the golf game fair. So she orders all of the Secret Service agents out of the trees, out of the landscape, because for years they've been helping him cheat. And it's so funny because he hits the golf ball and it just careens out, and he's like, well, we'll just say that's a mulligan. And they're like, no, that's not a real rule.
That's I'm day drinking and smoking cigars all day with my buddies while golfing rule.
Yeah.
Which is really weird because Trump doesn't smoke or drink, apparently.
No, he doesn't.
He's just a cuck.
Yeah.
He likes knowing that his wife hates him while he's on the golf course.
He likes the ball and cup. And in other news, apparently photographed and videoed are U.S. military planes in Afghanistan.
The fuck are they doing there?
Staging for Iran.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That does make sense.
The Taliban apparently is handing back the airport that Americans fought and died at. Remember? Biden's big, look what Biden did. He bungled this.
Well, and now Trump is just getting in bed with these motherfuckers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he invited them to Camp David.
I know.
I mean, is it any surprise we're as a country, we are held by the balls by a terrorist state? Do we really think Trump would not befriend other terrorist states?
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. And that's the disgusting truth of it. You know what I mean? Like, it just is. There's so many things that are going on with him and so many different policy things and so many of his sycophants in his cabinet just allowing this shit to happen. And then you're just watching Congress roll over and show its pink little belly. You know what I mean? They're not going to. If he had his way, there would be no Supreme Court. There would be no Congress. There'd be no Congress.
Yeah.
It would just be him and his cabinet, and that cabinet would just be filled with people that go, yes, sir, yes, sir. I can't. Like, did you see where they had the televised version?
Is my tongue deep enough, sir?
Yeah. Well, not just that, but I mean, they did that again. So you remember the first time we saw this was the first term that he had, where they were going around and all the cabinet members are, sir, I'm so proud of you and how well you lead us, and God,
tears in his eyes.
Yeah, and if I could just, if it would be okay, sir, I'd like to cradle your balls and tickle your taint if you would allow me that privilege. They did it again. And it was the most disgusting display of slobbering on a cock that didn't deserve it I've ever seen. It was just horrific. And really, like I said, what we're getting to is this point where nothing matters. Truth doesn't matter. Policy doesn't matter. No one's going to stand up to him. No one's going to push back. And when you do, he's going to fucking bring the full weight of the government down against you,
Just like Orwell said, 2 + 2 is 5.
Yeah.
Is there any part of Trump's first administration that are serving the second?
Stephen Miller.
All right, Miller.
What was Miller in the first? Because now he's like kind of running the show.
Yeah, I forget. I think he was.
He was an advisor.
I think he was a speechwriter and an advisor, and he was advising on immigration policy. So,
gotcha. Because from what I've seen, as much as Elon is a shadow president, or was until
he's out come May.
Yeah, and at least he was until the girls started fighting. Stephen Miller is now taking that spot. He is now the shadow president elect.
Absolutely.
I liked him better the first time when he had that groovy band. Fly like an eagle. Yep.
All right, another news?
And in other news, the Trump administration has been ordered to unfreeze funding in dispute with Maine over their transgender students.
I don't think they're going to do it. I think they're going to,
they're
Trump,
going to dig in their heels.
Yeah, I think
they're already in a legal dispute over this.
Yeah, and what does Trump do in any legal dispute? Digs in his heels, delay. I mean, that's just his MO.
Reportedly, the funding over the transgender students, do you know how many listed?
2
official? Yeah,
it's 2.
2 students.
Yeah, 2 in the whole state. This brings up another story that I saw, which is the UK Supreme Court just officially codified under their Equality Act that woman is defined by biological sex.
Yeah, I just saw that too.
I mean, it's not.
Well,
woman is just a word.
Look,
woman is just a word. It's an identity.
I find myself on the fence on some of this. You know what I mean? I absolutely support anyone who wants to be transgender. I do.
Mm-hmm.
But I also recognize that in general, you're either born with a penis or you're not. And so
I come from the idea that it's none of my fucking business.
I agree with you.
For me, it all comes down to how do you want to be perceived by the world? Because that's when we're talking man, woman, that's what we're talking about. If we're talking about the inseminator or someone with a womb, then yeah, okay, there's biological male and biological female. There's also biological intersex, but that's,
very rare. Yeah, and very rare. I do agree with the idea that it's not fair for them to be like biologically born as a male and then participate in female sports. I'm sorry, I do agree with that. I think that
I agree up to a point.
Yeah, but I think that they need to figure something else out when it comes to that. I'm not saying that I know what that is. I'm just saying that there are the reason why you had men's sports and women's sports, and even within those sports had weight divisions and categories and so on and so forth, the JV versus varsity. Like, the idea is to encourage everyone to participate if they are interested in some form of physical activity that is a sport. I think that that's fantastic. And it doesn't matter to me if you're trans, but if you're competing as a biologically born male against a biologically born female, that could cause issue. And
only to a certain point. It's all about hormone ratios and whether or not you're in
but that
a normal range,
at that
which
point,
they already test for, because
but
that's
at
how
that
they
point,
how they find out whether or not you're on whether or not you're on steroids.
At that point, I think it just makes everything more complicated. And I think, yes, let's have
this. For me, this goes back to my story that I told when I was in Kansas.
Right.
Went into a pizza shop, Little Caesars, and there was a person taking care of me, taking care of others that didn't know if it was male, didn't know if it was female, that androgynous look.
Yeah, don't care.
Either way. And I grabbed my pizza, and as I'm walking out, a guy stopped and said, "You think that's a boy or a girl?" Because they were obviously young, like high school.
Right.
That person. And the man who
I was androgynous in high school.
Same here.
But he said, do you think that's a man or a male or a female? And I said, I don't think it's any of our business, and looked him dead in the eyes.
Yeah, and that's actually the best way to approach it. But like I said, there are certain aspects of that we, in one form or another, need to figure out so that it is fair across the board for biologically born males, biologically born females, and those who decide that they want to be trans. And it's not even a decision.
I'm telling you, it's hormone ratios.
Well, but it's not always that important, such as the girl that Trump pointed to during his Gestapo speech to the nation a few weeks ago, where he pointed out there's the volleyball girl who continued to play other sports despite what he said. And then the girl who was upset about her volleyball championship, the photo op that was taken with the transgender student. And she's upset because I don't remember which way they went because it just didn't stick with me.
Right.
That he was going to, or the person, I will just say they were going to win a higher rate of games than everybody else because of the difference, when in actual reality, they were 119th in their state.
Oh, really? Okay.
So,
well, again,
guess what?
I don't want anyone
didn't exactly flow onto the game course.
Right. But here's my point. I think that
I guess you just can't coach talent.
I think that you're absolutely right. I think my perspective is, first and foremost, it's none of my business. It is a complicated issue. There are things that need to be figured out and agreed upon. And the idea that it's just going to be whatever the trans wants or whatever the non-trans, I don't agree with that. I think that it's got to be one of those circumstances, like in any good negotiation, both sides feel like they could have done better, but both sides can accept what they got.
I raise you one, integration is normalization. In the sense of the few trans athletes that exist within this country, normalizing them existing in all spheres means integrating them in all spheres.
And maybe you're right. I don't know. I think, like I said, I think it's a very complicated issue, and it's a nuanced issue. I don't have the answer, but what I do know is that my view on the day to day, like, well, you wake up in the morning, you put your pants or your skirt on or whatever the fuck you put on, you go to your job, you do your deal, or you go to school, do your deal, whatever. I think that in those, in the general sense of living,
the social reception,
you should just accept these people because that's who they feel that they are. Now, I do draw a line, all right? And
I wouldn't want Keith throwing a wig on and getting in the women's octagon. I can respect that.
Okay, so you get that part of my argument.
That I'll lose.
You probably would. But that's not the point.
My point being, I agree with you. If Keith woke up tomorrow, threw on a wig, and hopped in the women's octagon, I would not be cool with that.
Yeah, and that's kind of my point.
At a certain point over hormone therapy, you reach a point where your muscle density and your bone density are within a normal range for your identified gender, and regardless if you have nuts or not.
Yeah, and you may be absolutely right. I don't know enough about it to be able to agree or disagree with you on that. My only point is that in general, you should be accepting of these people. You should be accepting of the fact that this is how they feel. This, just like anyone else. You know what I mean? Like some people, I am a long hair and I get shit for that a lot. But I don't fucking care, right? Not going to make a big deal, make it a political issue. Men with long hair, fuck it, whatever. You think of me what you want. I don't really give a shit. But I don't want people to think that I'm anti-trans. I want people to understand that I don't know enough about the subject to speak with any authority. I know just enough to have the beginnings of an opinion. But most importantly, I think it's a very nuanced issue, and it cannot be viewed as this is simply black or white, right or wrong.
Last point that I'm going to make on this, at least from my point of view, is if you look at the Jim Crow era and the aftermath, which we are in the aftermath, the most this is just a good analogy. It's a good analog for the trans conversation. The most racist people live in white enclaves.
I would agree.
They do not have black neighbors.
I would agree.
People who are racist that move into very diverse cities tend to, not always, but tend to become less racist as they experience, hey, you know what? The guy that rings me out at the cash register at Kroger, he's black. It's no biggie. He's not holding a gun to my head. Oh, you know, the guy that runs the record shop is Arab.
Well, I'll give you a perfect example. And I'm not going to say
it's almost as if you're saying segregation is bad.
Yeah, integration is normalization, is my point.
And I agree with you on that. But, you know, we have elderly family members, and I'm not going to point out which one or who. There's two in particular, and you'll know who I'm speaking of. They went to the grocery store on their corner, and there is a very, very, a very butch trans person that's a cashier. And they freaked out about it. And my response to them was, being upset about that, did that change your groceries? Because
did it make them cost more?
Did it make them cost more? Did it make them cost less? Did they rub your groceries on their genitalia? No, none of that.
Damn it, you got testosterone all over my mozzarella.
Yeah, none of that happened. So shut up, wait for your fucking total, be kind, be respectful, because it doesn't fucking affect you. And that's the biggest issue, I think, with a lot of people is getting upset about shit that has no impact on their life. The vast majority of people who are racist because they don't have any contact, to your point, Colton, they don't have any contact with people outside of their kind of whiteness. Yeah. Or their own sexuality. Or maybe they're just from another generation, as is the case in this particular story.
Or sexist men are typically only friends with other men. They don't have female friends.
Exactly. So there's a lot of that goes on.
Extending that to trans people, if you haven't encountered a trans person in your life and you haven't interacted with a trans person in your life, you're more likely to be transphobic. Whereas if you realize, hey, they're still a person, and they're just a person.
Well, and not just that.
I've got an interesting question for y'all.
Mm-hmm.
What would it take for you to commit a hate crime? What is something that would make you so upset you would actually consider committing a hate crime?
Depends on whether or not you can consider an attack on Trump. This is just a joke.
Careful, son. Careful.
Don't come after me.
Careful. You might want to just stop that sentence there.
Yeah.
Especially in this environment right now.
Yeah.
So I would just stop it right there. My view on it is, and I fell into this, right?
I'm being censored by liberals.
Yeah. You poor son of a bitch. You poor little bastard.
Let us go woke on you.
Let us just try to prevent the FBI from showing up at your doorstep. There would take a lot for me, okay? But I did, under two different circumstances, find myself in a circumstance where I felt an anger, a violent anger towards a certain race of people. And the problem was, it was violence that was created or that was asserted against me first. So the day after my 17th birthday, my buddies were taking me out. We ended up getting carjacked. My one buddy got shot. I had a gun pointed between my eyes, and I got into a fight with a particular. So the person who shot my buddy and who put the gun between my eyes was of a certain race, and the person that I got into a fight with while that was all going on, his second, in this crime that was going on, was of another race. And I wouldn't say a significant period of time, but for a period of time, 6 months to maybe a year, I found that I was feeling a little bit racist towards them, to those groups. Okay. But it came around in my thinking that I realized, oh, wait a minute.
It's not because
they were that race.
Because they were them.
They were them. They were pieces of shit human beings. And that could have been easily 2 white guys that did that, right? The second time this happened to me was after 9/11. And it wasn't because of anything that was directly happening to me. It was because now I was in a circumstance, as most people were, specifically within the first week after 9/11, where I was just afraid. And I actually had the conversation where it was like, is it racist if it's fear-based? You know what I mean? And
I would argue yes, because all racism originates in fear.
Well, that was the conclusion that I came to. So then I had to reassess my thinking. But at no point did I really want to do like some sort of hate crime towards any of them because of their race. It was more the first time, well, both of them, you attacked me or you attacked us. And the fear came out of that circumstance. And it took some time. You know, look, when you've had a gun, a load, after you've seen your buddy shot and laying what you think is dead in the street, blood spewing out of his head, and you have that same person put the warm barrel between your eyes, yes, you're going to be afraid. You know what I mean? Like, you just can't help it. It sticks with you. It lingers.
I have a real answer.
Yeah.
So my high school was, if I had to put numbers to it, probably 50% white, 25-25 Albanian and Chaldean.
Mm-hmm.
And the Albanians and Chaldeans were the most obnoxious, the most violent.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The most rude. Like, basically any bully you would encounter were either Albanian or Chaldean.
Right.
And now looking back, I realize, no, that's not because of their race. It's because they're a minority within the school.
And they were assholes, yeah.
Yeah, all of their friends, you know, all the Chaldeans hung out together, all the Albanians hung out together, and they would have fights. And then occasionally they would pick on the white kids, but it was mostly just the Albanians versus the Chaldeans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had that in my high school, and that's going back into the late 80s.
Yeah, and that's because all the Albanians went to one of 3 churches and all knew each other and were family friends, and same with the Chaldeans. So, like, it had nothing to do with their race. It just had to do with
their association.
Their association with each other and their negative association to the other group.
Right.
And extending that to anyone that was not a part of that other group, but was friends with that other group, I guess. Yeah, so it never actually like devolved into like a racist sentiment for me, but it was an observation.
Yeah. What's interesting, Steve, you and I, we should have gone to the same high school, but I switched high schools.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that.
Right.
What's interesting is going to school in the hood.
Like you did.
South Warren.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't see any of that.
No. I think, too, though, what people don't realize, and they shouldn't, is that you also went to school at the same school that Marshall Mathers, Eminem, went to.
Well, yeah. But it's where I'm going with this is that school didn't have a lot of the problems the wealthier schools.
No, because there's kind of a community in being poor.
Yeah, very much.
So it's kind of like, you know, I think Theo Von did the joke where he had a black friend of his go, you're the man or something like that. He's like, well, if I'm the man and I'm creating all this problem, why am I living next door to you? You know what I mean? Like, I'm as broke as you are, motherfucker. And
the moral of the story is it's not white versus black. It's working class
it's
versus
rich,
ruling class.
It's rich versus poor is what it is.
Also,
and as for my hate crime, it would probably be any color of skin, whether it's mine or any others. But if they're offering me avocados or guacamole, I'm killing a motherfucker. I hate avocados.
It has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with the product they're slinging at you.
That's right.
I would like to also just point out.
Avocado.
I would like to point out.
Yeah, I hate it too.
There is no such thing as middle class. There's only working class.
Yeah, at this
there's
point.
There's no lower class, middle class, upper class. That's bullshit.
There's rich and poor.
Class.
No, there's rich and poor. That's it. There's rich and poor in this country. And that's becoming a bigger divide right now because of the tariffs. And that's going to be a bigger divide because of policy. And that's going to be a bigger divide because of fucking Trump. Right? Anyways.
Last news story. We'll keep this one light and friendly.
Oh, great.
Trump authorizes military to take control of public land along the southern border.
Ooh.
All right. So this gets back to improper use of the military, which I think we're going to actually see. There's a lot of talk about what's coming up this weekend. This weekend is 420, which for most of us would be a celebration of marijuana, would be a celebration of getting
about bag sweets.
Yeah, it would be a celebration of.
Let me tell you. Sorry.
Of doing.
RFK popped out.
Have you hit this joint?
So it would normally be a celebration of RFK impressions. It would be gummies. It would be vapes. It would be all those things, right? What else happened on 420?
Well, the Nazis really like celebrating Hitler's birthday.
Yes, that's the other thing that 420 is. It's also the day after Elsie's birthday, which has no meaning other than the fact that it's just an interesting little point
to us.
Yeah, it's meaningful to us. To the listeners, they don't fucking care. Anyways, but what is essentially being prepared for this 420 is that Trump will put into effect the Insurrection Act.
Now, or could.
He could. Well, he basically said...
He's getting his 90-day report from, who is it?
Hegseth, I think.
Hegseth and
no.
Is it Gabbard?
No, I think I think it's Noam.
No. Okay. Yeah, he's getting his 90-day report on the state of the border with Mexico, which they're not honest actors.
No.
So they're not going to provide an honest result.
But what's going to happen if he activates the Insurrection Act?
You gotta say what's going to happen, like Harry Carey. What's gonna happen?
What is gonna happen if he invokes the Insurrection Act? It's gonna be fucking spectacular.
Bases are loaded.
Why don't you sing us a duet?
Military bases.
Here's the problem. In doing so, that leads to martial law.
Yep.
And the amount of damage that he's going to do by invoking the Insurrection Act and then martial law, at that point, just doing the Insurrection Act, the broad level of power that he will have, people do not understand. I mean, this is one of those things where
it nullifies the courts, it nullifies elections.
The Constitution.
Yeah.
What do you think he's going to do? Do you think he's going to enact it?
I think he's just dumb enough that he might, but the only thing giving me pause on that is the fact that if he were to do that, martial law is a scary thing to say to the American people, because we think martial law, we think North Korea, we think Russia, we think, Iran, we think all these authoritarian regimes down the line,
and
right?
And rightfully so.
Yeah, rightfully so. But my point being, the American is an easily spooked creature.
Yeah.
And that can be used
in his natural habitat.
That can be used for good. It is often used for bad.
Right.
But when the voting base of MAGA hears Insurrection Act and then hears martial law, I don't think that's going to play nice, quite honestly. And that's his voting base.
I disagree. I think that
the reason is because if martial law goes into effect, you're right, that nullifies the Constitution. You know, it's part of the Constitution. The only fucking amendment they care about, the Second Amendment.
Well, here's where you're going to run into the issue, I think. I think quite possibly he will do it.
One of the secretaries at one of the last cabinet meetings was already talking about seizing the guns.
Yeah.
And I don't think enough people know about that.
No, because the fucking
they don't think
news...
it'll happen to them.
Well, not just that, but the fucking news doesn't really fucking report that shit. They don't focus and they go, this might have been overlooked, but this was said, and roll the tape.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm with Bill Burr. Liberals need to get over their fear of guns.
Oh, I agree. That was a brilliant bit that he had. Anyways, the point that I'm making here is I do think, and we'll know, you know what I mean? What are we talking? Today we're recording on Wednesday.
16th.
We're recording on the 16th, so we're 4 days away from that. This will be posted on the 17th. What we're
Easter is 420.
Yeah, and what a great day to do that while
look out for glazed eyes at the family dinner.
No, I think what will end up happening is that
glazed hams.
This is going to be announced later in the day. I would say after 4 p.m. because he's not, or it's going to be announced early in the day when everyone's at church celebrating Easter and then having dinner.
I think he waits until Monday. Honestly,
no, I don't think so. I think he
because he's going to be doing shit for Easter.
I still think he's
not a Christian.
I think that
he's not, but he has to put on the show.
No, but still, he's just going to sign it. It's already written. If he's going to do it, it's already written, and all it needs is the signature. And if it doesn't already have that signature, all it needs is the announcement. And you're seeing all those pieces being put in place, whether that's troops in Panama Canal, whether that's troops at the border. And what people don't understand is that when he does that, he effectively takes over all of the National Guard and federalizes them.
Yeah.
And on top of that, can bring military troops from abroad or any of the bases at home and utilize them against Americans. And once that happens, if it happens, we're all fucked. Everyone's fucked because it won't be a situation where you have any fucking rights. You won't. You just won't have anything. And at that point, it's just going to be how big is the jail in El Salvador? How big are the jails? What the capacity is and how quickly they can build more. And
well, he was asking El Salvador's president to build more.
No, that's the thing.
4 more buildings.
You know, I mean, he did it on a hot mic that he didn't realize was hot. But the fact is they laughed about it.
Build the prison.
Yeah. Build it and they will come. I will make sure they come because I will be the one putting them on the plane. The whole thing, this is all going sideways very, very quickly, especially when you take into fact into
technically speaking, we are now in a constitutional crisis officially.
I would agree with that, but I don't think
I think we have been since Inauguration Day, but, you know.
I think we've been since 2016, but I digress. This is going sideways, and it's going sideways fast, and if people don't sit up and take notice, they're going to find themselves in that same place of, I'm not anti-anything, but God damn it, am I afraid? And when you
Who's going to be left to advocate for you?
Exactly. Who's going to be left?
First they went for the communists. I was not a communist. So I did nothing. Then they went for the Jews. I was not a Jew, so I did nothing. Then they came for me, and there was no one else left to fight for me.
And that's where I think we're getting to. I think that's the point we're getting to. And so much so that, all right, so there was an article I read about simulation theory, and scientists seem to think that they can prove that we are living in a simulation theory. And it makes sense. Theoretically, you know what I mean? So, for example, if you have a computer program, everything is based off of the idea that there are parameters, right? Well, what do we have as parameters in the universe that we live in? Physics, you know, the speed of light, math, so on and so forth. There are all these boundaries. And my argument would be this, okay? And I'm going to make this quick and we'll wrap it up. My argument would be this. I do believe that we might be living in a simulation theory. However, I think that there's a virus, and I think that virus is Trump. And with that, that's another Elsie's Little Pickles.
Listen to Robert Sapolsky on YouTube. His whole entire lecture series is on there.
Wake up, people. The shit's about to hit the fan.
Resistance.